Doesn't this just make your blood boil? Keir Starmer will not have to face an ounce of accountability for his alleged breach of lockdown rules, with his voice coach visiting him in number 10 when London was in tier 4 lockdown restrictions. That's while Boris Johnson had to face a huge investigation by Sue Gray, the whole Partygate scandal, ultimately had to resign as a consequence. But Keir Starmer, he just gets off scot-free. That's right, we've got breaking news just in that the Met Police are refusing to take any action of the reports that they have received of Keir Starmer allegedly breaking lockdown legislation by allowing this voice coach to go visit him on the 24th of December 2020. And they say it's because it was over 3 years ago. They cannot do anything about it. At the same time, number 10, they're not showing any humility. They're not apologising whatsoever. They are insisting that they haven't broken the rules. All meanwhile, failing to give us any explanation whatsoever as to how on earth this voice coach fit into the definition of a key worker. Very, very clearly does not fit into the definition of a key worker. That was stated in the legislation, if you ask me. No one's believing their lies. This is really, really not a good look for Starmer. Everybody knows that he is guilty as charged, or at least that's my conclusion. So this is the voice coach that went and visited Keir Starmer on the 24th of December. Also, there was a piece out yesterday about the fact that he was actually having to self-isolate just a few days before she came and visited him. So, you know, maybe he could have been high risk and for COVID, and it wasn't a good idea to have her round anyway, regardless. But apparently she had to be there in person to give him voice coaching lessons, even though she she did lessons with him online on previous occasions. Doesn't really sound like essential work to me, and she clearly didn't do a very good job, because Keir Starmer does not exactly sound like the most eloquent individual, I think it's fair to say. So this is what we've got in the article that's just come out in the Mail on this. So he will not face any police actions over the claims of the COVID rule breach, and that is what Scotland Yard have come out and said today. That's confirmed by Scotland Yard. And the police have confirmed that they have received a report about this. It's not just in the media. A direct report has been made to them about this visit on Christmas Eve 2020. He really must have been desperate to get his voice sounding eloquent if on Christmas Eve he was doing voice coaching lessons. Like, don't most people take the day off on Christmas Eve? I don't know, especially Keir Starmer, who usually clocks off on 6 p.m. on a Friday. It's all a bit fishy for me. I'm starting to think, are they more than in a professional relationship? Is there a whole, like, Matt Hancock style story brewing here? Are they more than friends? I don't know. Pure speculation, of course, but it all just sounds a little bit fishy, you know? How come you're able to do voice coaching lessons online, but then suddenly on Christmas Eve, when you're in tier 4 restrictions, you desperately need to see Keir Starmer in person? It's very weird. It's all very weird. But regardless of the reasons why she was visiting, whether she was visiting in the capacity of a friend, of a voice coach, it was not allowed, okay? I was trapped by myself during this tier 4 London lockdown, okay? I had come to London for a few days before getting the train, meant to be getting the train up north to spend Christmas with my family, and then they announced, sorry, you guys are penned into London. You cannot leave London. If you try to come to the train station and get on a train up north, the police will all be there and they'll all arrest you. You guys cannot leave. So I was just trapped by myself. Meanwhile, Keir Starmer getting to hang out with his voice coach. Good for you, mate. Absolutely unacceptable. And it's the hypocrisy of it that absolutely stinks, because he and Angela Wiener and the rest of them were all insistent that Boris Johnson must resign for breaching lockdown rules. But apparently those rules don't apply to the Labour Party, it would seem. But anyways, so the Scotland Yard, the Metropolitan Police, they have said that because the incident was more than 3 years ago, they will not be initiating any proceedings. They will not be investigating this. I do not know if that is a hard rule, that the police are not allowed to investigate a crime that took place I guess criminal is a civil matter, but they're not able to investigate something that is over 3 years old, or if they've just decided we're not that interested in it because it's more than 3 years old. If you're an expert on the rules in this, if you work in the police, do let us know in the comments. And yeah, so that's where we are at with this, and I just want to remind you, because it is the hypocrisy of this that stinks, remind you what Keir Starmer said about Boris Johnson's breach of COVID rules.
Is up. You cannot be a lawmaker and a lawbreaker.
So there we have it. You cannot be a lawmaker and a lawbreaker. Those are the words of Keir Starmer himself. Clearly, this man does not think those rules apply to him. And the lockdown legislation, it was very complicated. It was written up in a rush. It was very confusing for the general public to understand. I had a hard time deciphering between what is guidance and what is actually law that I legally have to follow at the time. It was very confusing. The universities were having nightmares because the rules about universities and students were also written so confusingly. It was a mess. But Keir Starmer is a lawyer. He doesn't really have much of a free pass for not understanding the law. The Labour Party, they tried to give Angela Rayner a free pass for her messing up the rules with the sale of her council house. Remember all of that earlier in the year? Because they said, oh, she's a working class lady. She doesn't understand the rules and the law properly. Let her off. It was a very strange argument, but they basically said, this woman wouldn't have known the law very well. She's just a working class lady. But Keir Starmer, he is a lawyer, okay? He doesn't really have that much excuse for not understanding what the COVID rules were. So the scandals just do not stop for this Labour Party. But Keir Starmer had said when he was videoed in Durham having takeaway and a pint when they were campaigning in a by-election there, he said that if he was found guilty of breaking the law by the police, that he would do the right thing and he would resign. The question is, will he do the right thing and resign here? Now, he's got very lucky because the police have said they won't investigate it. But I think it's pretty clear as day to everybody else that they broke the rules here. I don't see how they can excuse themselves from it. I don't see how they can convince anyone that this isn't a breach of lockdown rules. I think he's probably just going to stay a hypocrite. He's going to stay in power. He won't resign over this. But everyone's going to think that he is the biggest hypocrite in Britain. So there we go. Anyway, I'm Chloe Dobbs. Thank you very much for watching. Make sure you're subscribed to the Reason channel if you're not already. See you all next time.